All right, guys, how you guys doing? So we're finally back to our regularly scheduled programming of Sunday matinees. Today, I have probably one of the first bands I've ever seen and one of my favorite bands. Um, the way I got into this band is through their previous band, which is two of the longest members of the band called Comeback Kid. I originally heard of Comeback Kid because of Figure Four, which you both were members of, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, what's up, Nate?
Hey,
Good
so
to see you.
you guys want to introduce yourselves and who you are and what you play in the band?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Andrew. I sing with Comeback Kid and drink bubbly with Jeremy.
Yeah. I'm Jeremy. Also enjoying a lovely.
Awesome.
And I play guitar.
So off the bat, I guess it's just out of curiosity, because it seems like, when Comeback Kid started, you guys started hitting the ground running like nonstop. And I'm assuming the band started in the early 2000s, because Turn It Around came out 2003.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we started practicing or jamming in 2000.
Yeah.
And then we put out, when did that demo come out? 2001 or 2002? I think it was 2002.
2K2, yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then we just started kind of, what's that?
My question is that how did it go from, because it seemed like as soon as Figure Four was done, Comeback Kid started and kept going. How did it go from Figure Four to Comeback Kid, and why?
We actually recorded Turn It Around, the first Comeback Kid record, I think 2 months before the last Figure Four record, Suffering the Loss. And that just kind of, so for that first year, 2003, we were really like, before that it was Figure Four touring, but after 2003, 2004 even, it became both bands, like get off tour with one band, start tour with the other, or even tour together or meet, we've had situations where we dropped off members in Chicago, they went back to Winnipeg, and then Bailey hops on and we start a Figure Four tour or something like that. So it was relentless at that time as far as like being out on the road. We really liked it.
That's awesome. Why did Comeback Kid start? What was the reason for starting Comeback Kid when you already had a band that was kind of already going?
Just to do something a little bit different. And also I wanted to play guitar in a band. I was singing with Figure Four. Yeah. So I wanted to do something a little different. So Figure Four was so heavy, I just wanted to have a little bit of a different style band with Comeback Kid. And so we started that.
So, when I first heard of Comeback Kid was because you guys were, I believe, on Face Sound Records. Turn It Around was on Face Sound, correct?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I got into hardcore a lot. At least a lot of the shows was through the window of, these, at least in Southern California, these Face Down record shows and bands. And it was an easy way for me to tell my mother that I was like, oh, it's like a Christian band or a Christian show or something. It was an easy way for me to like be super young and be like, yeah, go ahead. I always have to ask, how did you guys, being involved in music for so long, how did you get involved with hardcore, punk rock, whatever you want to call it? How did you get involved with music, mostly in an area of Canada that seems somewhat secluded? So what's your guys' story as far as, going to a show, going to your first show, and then starting a band?
Jeremy? Yeah.
I guess, well, for starters, I don't think you realize, or we didn't realize how secluded Winnipeg was until we started touring. We had as far as like local scenes go, with a really knowing better, and in all honesty, I think we had a pretty decent local scene. There were a lot of bands. I think me and Andrew probably played in a bunch of bands at one time, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. So there was no shortage of like shows. There was always a couple to go, not like Southern California, but there was always different local shows going on. But like how I guess your question was like, how did each of us get into music?
Yeah,
Like this kind of music?
what was your first memory of like, like a hardcore show that specifically, or
Well, I kind of got into, I mean, we've always got to answer the Christian question with Comeback Kid. So might as well just start off there. It's something we just, we are very aware of. It's part of our history, but we also feel the need to make it clear where we're at. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, and similar to you, like, I had to justify certain kinds of music with my parents. And, you know, I kind of got into like Christian thrash and death metal, like in the early 90s, and just kind of made my progression to hardcore from, Christian metal, essentially. So my first recollection, oh boy, I don't even remember. I'm totally blanking right now because I remember I saw one of my favorite Christian metal bands at the West End Cultural Center here in Winnipeg in '94, and Malefaction was on that show, which was like a local kind of thrash grind kind of band from Winnipeg. So that would have been my first sort of taste of like something that wasn't Christian but local. And yeah, I moved to Winnipeg in '94 after that and just started, kind of going to more shows and familiarizing myself more with that world because I was pretty in my own little bubble at that time.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I guess my first introduction to like punk, hardcore-ish kind of stuff would have been my older brother's friend like sold me a Propaganda I Spy split, and I saw some of those bands early on, like when I was super young, and just kind of, I think it was mostly local stuff. I can't remember what would have come to Winnipeg early on. Stuff like Snow Jam, it was like No Use for a Name, High Standard, and like, these like kind of like skate punk kind of tours.
Yeah.
So I think if I actually wanted to go see like some like touring hardcore bands, we'd have to go down to Minneapolis when I was like later in high school. And I remember, going to see Harvest's last show. I think Bane was on that tour and they were like pretty new out. So this would have been like 99, but yeah, we had to drive a long way, like 8 hours to like a city like Minneapolis to go see like cool shows. You know what I mean? And yeah, as soon as we had the opportunity to go play outside of Winnipeg, we would go. And once you're at the first city, you might as well keep on going because it's quite a distance. So
it's funny because I always hear stories about friends in the Midwest or like other parts of the country where like driving 6, 8 hours, 10 hours to see a show was kind of normal. Whereas here in California, anything past an hour, I'm not going.
Dude, Figure Four drove 30 hours to go play 2 shows at Showcase Theater. Maybe both of them were at Showcase, but we drove 30 hours to Cali and 30 hours back. And then we flipped our van on the way back. And I remember Bad Brains was playing and we got a bunch of snow in our faces, but we were all okay. But it was like we were almost home after like 25, 26 hours. And
we're in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. All of a sudden we're like tobogganing on the roof of our van in the snow.
Hey, how awesome was the shows though?
Dude, I mean, coming from Canada, coming down to California is like, it was awesome. I'm sure, were you maybe, I'm sorry?
I think no, I said, of course it was awesome. I feel like at that age, it was like,
oh yeah.
It's just, everything's just kind of like almost surreal.
Overblown, right?
Like, yeah, even me when I was younger, it was like, I'd go to a show outside of California or like travel to go see a show. And I'd just be like, yo, this is so cool. It's so different, but it's such a weird environment.
Showcase Theater, that's a venue. I'm sure you've talked about it on this on these like Sunday matinees, but that's a venue I really miss.
Yeah, I would give anything to get that place back.
Is the building still standing?
Dude, not only is the building still standing, the venue inside is fully intact still.
Jeez,
Nice.
where's that Southern California hardcore kid that like used to go there and then became like a punk rock hero that's a millionaire? Like, where are they?
I'm still searching for him, dude, because I'm like, it's literally still fully intact, and it's
Oh,
just,
for Andrew and I, that's like ground zero for like our early California shows because like that was the spot.
dude, it was a spot, but now it was just like the perfect setup for like any and every type of subculture, like it was such a breeding ground for that.
Yeah. But like back to what you were saying about just early days. Jason from Face Down, he came to Winnipeg with his band known as The Victim, and when I was about 16, and I helped do the show for them, and Figure Four played with them in Winnipeg, and that's how he found us, and he really got us like the start touring. He booked our first tours, and a lot of that early on, even Figure Four, and even with Comeback Kid, he was the one that really helped us get our start when we didn't really know exactly how to go about doing it. So,
and that was the time frame where that era of music and that label is just, dude, it was nationwide, like, I mean, I'm assuming through Canada too, but it was just everywhere you went there was some kind of festival hosting the Face Down band, or Tooth and Nails and all that, all that type of stuff. I guess going back to the earlier years, how did you and Jeremy meet? How did you guys like start a band together?
I met Jeremy.
I
met Jeremy body surfing to a band in a farm. There was maybe 5 people carrying me, and he was lifting me by the legs. The other guys let go, and I fell and I broke my wrist. And that was my first time meeting Jeremy. Maybe I'd seen his band practice that afternoon or something before the festival, but it was somewhere in some farm, and Jeremy had my legs and I broke my arm.
Down he went.
So,
yeah.
Was this in Winnipeg?
Outside of Winnipeg.
Yeah, just outside, yeah.
Where, I have no idea, but yeah.
How old did you say you guys were?
How old?
Yeah.
What year was
I
it?
would have been like 14 years old.
And I would have been a lot old. I was the old kid. I probably would have been like 19 or 20 or something like that.
Yeah, and you guys been inseparable since, huh?
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate enough to have interviews with a lot of my peers and bands that are like I've watched growing up, and watching these members continuously be in the same band and do things for so long, together for such a long time. I always thought, me being in my band with my band members I was like, this is fucking surreal. We've been doing the same shit for 15 years. It's crazy. But then I put it in perspective of other bands who have done it for way longer. Comeback Kid's coming out. It's 20 years now, at least.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the big 20 year.
Yeah. Have you guys found a good dynamic of being in a band together? And I ask that because I'm assuming there's this relationship, almost like it's like your family, but it's also there's very many of times where me and my band members yell at each other all the fucking time, but at the end of the day, we've done this for so long that it doesn't matter. For you guys who've done it for not just Comeback Kid but for Figure Four, how's like, if you look back on 20 years, it's pretty crazy and surreal, but how does it feel for you guys? Do you ever sit there and be like, oh fuck, I've been with this dude longer than most of my relationships,
Longer.
Definitely. Well, I know that Jeremy has my back. I'm pretty happy about that. I can really trust Jeremy, and he's been a partner through a lot of this stuff. We're not always hanging out together.
Yeah.
We're traveling together. We both, have our different interests. But it's definitely what you said. It's a family vibe, and we really trust each other, I think. And yeah, it's kind of how it is.
Yeah, no, and I feel the same way. It's like we're not always like I'm a straight up like introvert. So it's like when we get to the venue, we load in and everything. Most of the band usually hangs around the venue, but I gotta go for a walk for 2 3 hours. I'm just like that guy that's got to be by himself just to keep my batteries charged. But sorry.
No, I'm saying, and I definitely you see that dynamic in every band. You know, there's those people that are just kind of, hey, I'm gonna go on a walk, and other people that are just.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
some people need to be around other people to, you know, have their batteries charged. Other people need their space to keep their batteries charged. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of bands, if they have a, you know, whoever is really the original members, they have a dynamic like that, you know, one or two, maybe three in a band, but you know, the songwriters, the people that are kind of handling things, a couple, you know, some different kinds of individuals, usually that yin and yang, you know, so
I've definitely
couple quirky boys.
I've been fortunate enough to tour with Comeback Kid a couple times now, and yeah, definitely, you know, I definitely, as soon as I got to the venue, you know, Jeremy, I just remember you loading in, setting everything up, and then like
nowhere to be seen for a couple hours.
Where the fuck is this dude at?
Yeah. Everybody's going out to eat, and where's Jeremy?
And you know, I'm definitely the type of person that's very, you know, we've been friends for some years now, where I'm very social, you know, and like in the sense that like I don't know, anxiety of being alone, which is crazy because when you're on tour, you're never alone. But
yeah, no, everybody's a little different.
Yeah,
it's the energy that I miss right now. Like I don't really have a way, like, you know, you can work out and stuff, but there's not really much of a way to exert that energy that you get when you're at a show or playing or even just watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's,
so I guess diving into that statement, you know, going into, you know, there's always that time. You guys have been on tour for so long, and you know, as have I. There's always those moments where like, fuck, I just want to go home. Like I just want to be home and take a break, you know. But now this is a forced break. Like you didn't have a choice. So you know, 2020 hit, COVID hit, and everybody in the music industry came to a halt. And now you're forced to stay home. You're forced to not tour. The two questions are you guys enjoying the break, or is it getting to a point where you're just kind of like, fuck, I want to go back on the road? And second question is, you know, a lot of people don't understand the financial toll it takes to be in a full-time touring band. Is it something that's kind of scary for you guys, or are you guys in a space where like, okay, like you're planning other things to do, you know, in this meantime? So I guess going back to the first part of it, how has this pandemic been for you guys, and was it a nice break, or is it at a point where you're just like itching to get back on the road?
Go for it, Goose.
I'm probably a little bit different than Jeremy because Jeremy has a family and children and stuff like that. But I'm open. Like looking back on it, I think hasn't been the worst thing for me at all, having a break. I definitely miss it. It helps to know that everyone else is on the break as well. So I'm not like missing out on anything in this, but we have, you know, this is a really good time. We were going to do a record anyways. So this is kind of the time that we're using to write some new material, and we'll hopefully be recording at the beginning of the new year. And yeah, I definitely miss it. It's just the hardest part is just not knowing when it's going to all happen again. So, you know, it's kind of hard to plan. And, you know, even with just day-to-day life, like you were saying, like we got to think of other ways to kind of get through for the next few months here. And that might not be music all the time, you know?
How's it been for you, Jeremy?
And my take's probably pretty similar, I guess. Maybe a little more complex because, yeah, I do have a family, kids. So, I mean, coming straight into it back in March, April, like I can honestly say that was one of the lowest periods of my life, just because there were just so many unknowns. Like you know, like what Andrew said, if we knew when we were going back to some kind of normal, that would 100% make it easier, because then it's like, oh, should I be handing out resumes for like jobs? Should I don't know, who should I be talking to? There's so much that you would love to kind of figure out if you had a timeline to work with. But it was always okay. We're going to get on the phone with the booking agent and bump this tour down the road like 3, 4, 6 months or whatever, and then do it all over again a couple months later. And it just kind of had this sort of, for me, like a really anxiety ridden sort of, I just had this cloud over my head that it's still there to a degree, but it was much worse, I'd say, about half a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the last while, I think it's just helped that we've been able to, make progress with the record because, yeah, we, like Andrew said, we had fully intended to put out a record. It's obviously coming out a little later than we would have if this had never happened. But yeah, it's just been good to have that, at least some sort of sense of purpose, because you talk to anybody who's been in a band for 20 years, and when you're kind of forced to, leave it, whether your band broke up or a pandemic hit, you realize how much that actually did for you,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's the hard part. The silver lining for me is I have 2 kids that are young, 1 and 4, and so I'm seeing them way more than I would have,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
that's a huge upside for me that I absolutely don't take for granted. So
Yeah.
yeah, daddy's still got to go to work and make the money, but he had to figure something else, so he became an Uber Eats driver for the time being. But it's like you got to make ends meet one way or the other. So
Yeah, and it's definitely a crucial time for you to be home, but it's also, a lot of people, fantasize about being in a band, and mostly like a punk hardcore band, fantasize about it, which to me is probably the coolest thing I've ever done. But also, people don't realize how much work and toll it takes on your personal life to be, you know, somewhat of a successful musician means touring, you know.
I
So
love that Zabalba's kind of turned into a band that does really cool faraway
yeah,
destination type
and,
one-offs,
and here's the thing. Here's the thing why I we stopped touring is because there's humans that can handle the road and do it in a sense that you're able to control your surroundings and be on the road constantly. And there's people like us who are just fucking maniacs who like I realized and knew that if I continued to tour, I'd be fucking dead, plain and simple. Um, so there was a time and period I was like, fuck, I want to tour and do this for forever. But it's also came to the realization that it's like for some people, it's just some people just can't hack it, And as
Yeah.
far as the ball, I was like, dude, I knew the way we were going and the route we were going. I was like, it's not going to be a healthy situation for any of us. Um, but again, going back is that bands don't realize that, and people don't realize that, public don't realize that how much work you guys put into your music, how much work it takes to be in a band, in a full time band. Um, is there ever there's moments during this period, because I do work in the music industry, that I do find myself in a very depressive state because I'm like, fuck, like, when's the next check? When's the next tour happening? When's the next, gig happening? Um, it seems like for the most part, you guys are pretty level headed and keep yourself in a groove so you don't get in the state. But, what do you tell your peers and friends that are in the music industry, are musicians who are going into very dark places? What have you guys been doing to stay out of that fucking dark mentality?
We're just kind of coming off a little bit of a high right now because we were just together writing for the first time as a full band. Before that, it was getting pretty dark. Like there's only so long you can be in your room recording into your computer by yourself and like feel, so to actually like be able to connect with the other guys and like, be in the same city, be in the same place, that kind of energized me a lot.
That's awesome.
So I think I really, really needed that. And hopefully, we're locked down here. So hopefully we can record next month. We're not sure if things like, if the studio stays open and stuff, but at least we have something to look forward to right now. But yeah, I mean, and if I didn't have Comeback Kid, you know, you gotta kind of somehow play music with people. I don't know. Just kind of gets a little. I know how it gets a little disheartening when you're just by yourself constantly doing
Yeah.
the music. It's a little different.
Yeah,
So.
without a doubt. Jeremy, what have you been doing during this whole time besides obviously? I mean, I'm assuming having kids is keeping your hands full. But have you picked up any hobbies or anything during this time?
Not really. I was doing a good amount of exercise during the summer, and then it just kind of came down to like money. Like so, like I said, I got got all my documents approved to become an Uber Eats driver, and one of my friends owns a brewery, so I do some like beer deliveries for him every now and then. So it just became like I'm a dad and I want to hang out with my kids, but I've also got to do my part in paying the mortgage, keeping the lights on at home, putting food on the table, because it's just part of the unknown, right? Like you just don't know how long you're going to be doing this. And I was fortunate enough to not be in a terrible financial situation when it started, but I didn't want to just let it get to a point where I had to make some terrible financial decisions or be faced with some terrible financial decisions. So I had to pick up some work I could do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So no how.
Well, beyond COVID, hopefully, I'm assuming once you guys are able to tour, are you guys planning to tour, get back on the road?
Yeah, assuming things are somewhat normal in the world. like there's so many people that are like, it's not going to be like the old normal. It'll be a different, so whatever. But yeah.
What do you think, Nate? Like you do a lot of production stuff when you're touring.
Inside info here. What's going on?
Yeah, what do you think bands should be doing like multiple nights in certain cities and less people, or what do you think? Do some production? What?
Here's the two perspectives I have. The two perspectives are, if this vaccine comes out and people take the vaccine and it just clears everybody up, there's a chance of everything going back to normal as far as just filling up a room, not having to stress about it. But you also have to be realistic, is that how long is it going to take to get this vaccine out on a large scale worldwide? So that's the first thing. That's going to take a fucking while.
I feel, because everybody's saying kind of like fall next year is kind of when
kind of normal,
when normies are going to be able to get it.
Yeah. So there's that perspective. And they're like, okay, so if that doesn't happen and we can't control it, the other perspective is that, things are going to get under control, but naturally it's not smart to just be like, oh yeah, fuck it. Let's just pack 10,000 people. Let's pack 15,000 people. Let's pack a room. It seems like it's going to start opening up, but in like a gradual state, like, 50 people, 500 people, 1,000 people. But then for here in the States, they're like, I'm reading the deal memos that Live Nation's setting out and Ticketmaster, like, everybody that comes in has to have a vaccine, has to get tested. And then there's like these deal memos where like, the bands have to pay for insurance now and pay for fees if they cancel a show. It's like the idea of touring in 2021, even to me now,
daunting.
Still seems grim.
Yeah.
From a musician perspective, because there's so many liabilities that you have to take on. And, I'm hoping this vaccine is good to go and it gets out there, but I'm also being very realistic in the sense that like I need to find another job now,
So is crowd participation in hardcore and punk, is that a thing of the past? Be romanticized forever? What do you think?
Dude, we've done 2 live streams now. And as much as I love playing with my band, dude, I don't want to do that anymore. Fuck that.
I really like that though. You had the screen in the back and shit.
Yeah, like it looks cool, but I mean, dude, you're the singer of Comeback Kid. Like how, like nothing's gonna replace that like feeling of someone singing back to you and jumping off the stage. Do you really want to play a show without that?
All the droplets, yo.
But now, dude, you know what I think about too? Because I already feared this. I mean, I guess this is the question for you, Andrew. Is that I already feared this playing a show and just like there's those moments where just like someone just spits like yelling words and you're like, this is I'm stoked for you to be excited about my band, but then I just get fucking spit all over my face.
I think it's usually me that people have to worry about. I'm dripping sweat onto their foreheads. So
I forgot we were somewhere on the tour. I forgot where we were, but we're somewhere. I don't know if it was in Europe or here, but I remember someone just like grabbed Andrew and was just like screaming in his face, and I just see spit come out of this kid's mouth all over your face, and you're just like, while he's singing along, you stop singing and you just start going like this.
sometimes people run up to me and they're just so intense. You're just like, ooh, just like look in the eye.
But like, why don't you push him off? You're too nice that you just sit in there, just like push his ass off. Oh, dude, I remember that shit. That was pretty funny.
Fuck yeah.
But so Comeback Kid has a decent amount of records now, but only the first record was with the original singer, correct?
Second.
First, Turned Around and Wake the Dead.
Wake the Dead
was with Scott. Yeah.
It seems like when you guys first started, Turned Around was kind of like the hardcore record, and then Wake the Dead came out, and it seemed like at that point you guys kind of propelled into just being like an international band. After Wake the Dead, you guys are constantly in Europe and constantly in the States touring. Did you guys notice a difference, from, Wake the Dead to the first record? Did you notice that difference of just like kind of like getting bigger, or was it just kind of gradual for you guys? Because from a fan perspective, it seemed like once Wake the Dead hit, it was just like the shows got twice as big. Or am I just dreaming?
Yeah, I think that song definitely gave us legs that we would have definitely not have had without it. I remember playing that song for the first time. We were in Australia, and I think only Victory Records had a sampler at the time, and it had come out on, and we weren't really even playing it on that tour. And then we decided to play it in Melbourne, and it went off. And it was our first time playing. We're like, oh wow, this is actually, people will like this song. But yeah, like not a lot of bands I think are able to have a song that we do realize that the song like really propelled the band. I think.
Yeah. It's one of you guys. Like every time you guys play that song, it's still really well received.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it seems like after that, it seems like every record you guys gradually are expanding on what I can't really call you guys a hardcore band or a punk band. It seems like you guys kind of try different things every single record. As far as the writing process goes, what is that like? Is it a combination of the two of you, or is there like other members kind of partake? Because I know
Yeah.
the both of you guys are very invested in the writing process, but how is that? Is it do you guys ever have producers come in? Do you guys ever have how is it for you guys?
Yeah, it's funny, I can definitely recognize a song when it's like a Jeremy song. Like it's uncanny to me. I can totally I know the style of riffs. It's a Jeremy song. And I think mine are to Jeremy, he would also know when it's one of my songs, or Stu, our guitar player. You can, when you play in a band with someone, you can really tell. And yeah, some songs are more straight up than others. If I didn't have Jeremy or maybe other members of the band reeling me in, we probably could have gone some funny directions like 10 years ago, maybe. But it's good to have the guys reeling you back in. Keep it straight up.
Out of curiosity, what direction would Jeremy? This is for you. Out of curiosity, if you just let the leash go, what direction would that have been if Andrew had full control?
Oh, I don't know. I mean the one obvious. Sorry.
I'm picturing like some out of the wall, like I don't know, turning into like straight up like U2 or some shit like that.
Well, I mean,
Whoa.
in some ways, you might not be too far off. I think the one thing that the rest of us band members are always like, oh, that's kind of Sights and Sounds. And Andrew's like, and for those that don't know, Andrew has another
Yeah.
band that's called Sights and Sounds, and we're like, that sounds pretty Sights and Sounds. He's like, no, not at all. We're like, yeah, it is. So we always have that back and forth with a handful of songs. But I mean, it's not like way out there. Like in my opinion, there's songs that could have been Sights and Sounds, and probably vice versa. Like songs that were on Sights and Sounds records that we could have retooled and they could have been comeback hit songs.
Yeah.
I think anytime you're in two bands, you're always going to find there's going to be some overlap, which is just kind of goes without saying. I think I could say the same with Stu. Like he's been writing on the last two records or like this one that we're working on right now and the one before, and there's certain parts where I'm like, oh, that would totally suit a Misery Signals record. I'm sure if I had a side project, because Andrew's very aware of my quirky style of riffing sometimes, that if I had another band, it would fall into that category.
That's awesome. I mean,
But I think
like broadcasting and then like Symptoms and Curses. I feel like that's when you guys started being prominently melodic. But then Die Knowing was just like, oh fuck, like kind of going back in time. At least
I think though also we're aware that like we kind of want to make different types of songs on every record, like so that you'll find some heavier, some I don't know. We try to mix it up, in as much as we can with it, But so if there's a lot of fast, octaves type stuff coming at me, I'll try to write something totally different, maybe. So and just try to be apart from that curve a little bit, just to provide some variety. You know what I mean? So.
So, I guess going into a more serious note, you guys are very fortunate enough, or I think you guys are very fortunate enough to be Canadian and live in a country that doesn't seem to be going through some wild bullshit every day. As a Canadian, and I asked all my friends who live in other parts of the world or different countries, what is your perspective on America right now? Like what do you think of America at this moment?
I need a completely separate podcast for that.
Give me a glimpse of what you're thinking.
Oh, I'll do my best. I'm clearly going to offend some people because everything's so polarized now. But I mean, I'm clearly not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm also not a fan of Joe Biden. I just to try to like summarize my thoughts as fast as I can. Like I feel like someone like Joe Biden is part of the reason that created someone like Donald Trump, like kind of created that vacuum for someone like him to come in there. But yeah, we need a whole podcast to do that. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just one part sad, one part like entertaining, one part like there's just so much going on where, if you spend time on social media, just kind of following a lot of it, it's exhausting, hilarious. Yeah. It's I don't know. I can't wait to see how the historians like put this one away.
I can't wait to see the movie.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part where I felt bad for stuff like Saturday Night Live, because it's like, what's the point? Like you can hardly parody that.
Dude, I know. It's I asked a bunch of my friends who live, a bunch of our friends that live in other parts of the world, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with what's going on with your country? Like it's like falling apart, and it's kind of embarrassing. Andrew, what do you think of it when you watching the news on America and what's going on?
Yeah, I'm watching. We're all fascinated up here. Keeping up to date and listening to the podcasts and just taking it in. I did feel relieved after the election, but I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? And now we're watching that unfold. Yeah, we're just, we're just looking in on all that, but it is a crazy time. And even, people are disagreeing a lot here in Canada about similar things, and people are off their rockers here in Canada too. And some people have some sense too. So,
But I think that's just. I mean, you can say that about any part or any country in the world. That there's generally like some type of. There's always going to be some kind of clash with politics and just general society issues. Within your city, state, or country, whatever it may be. But here, I think it's in American culture. It seems like we've always been so loud and kind of proud of who we are, but it's almost kind of biting us in the ass now because there's like no meeting in the middle right now. It's just like these polar opposite sides where it's like, me, who I'm not really political. I'm not, I've always been kind of stayed in a straight lane and stayed away from it. But now I'm like forced to care about politics. Where I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on?
and you feel like divided a lot more in your day-to-day communities as well.
You know what? From my perspective, I don't feel divided because I know who I am and where I stand. But I feel very torn in the sense that not only is the pandemic affecting my life, but I live in a city that's, you go 2 miles this way, it's primarily Republicans, and then I live in a city that's very liberal, and it seems to be constantly clashing. But the hardest part for me, it's always been like, all I've ever cared about is just my friends, my family, and making money to pay the fucking bills. Where now I can't pay my fucking bills, and there is no income coming, and it seems that politics have taken over things like this pandemic has taken over Black Lives Matter, and it's been almost turned into a political thing where it's like it's just about right and wrong, what you should and shouldn't do. But now I can't fucking work because fucking dumbasses are arguing,
Yeah, well,
it's that way.
and I've heard so many stories like yours because a lot of my friends, I've always paid attention to politics and it's been like a huge interest of mine, but I know a lot of people who also just didn't want to and the pandemic kind of did whatever. But then I think when the George Floyd thing happened, it just forced a lot of people to be like, I gotta make a stand of some sort, or like make a statement, or show what side I'm on, because I think a lot of us got shocked by how many people didn't take the side that we thought they would. When it came to that, George Floyd is like, yeah, he was no angel, but didn't you see what happened? And just like, no, this is such an isolated incident. It's like, no, it's not really an isolated incident. And just the conversations that happened after that, I think, if I'm just meander here a little with my thoughts, but I think I'm hoping in the long run that good will come out of it, because I think a lot of people, became engaged with a lot of important issues like this year, and they haven't been easy, and it's been gross and whatever, but maybe on the other side, we're going to be doing a little better overall. I don't know.
It's crazy because the first time in my life, I've really felt very involved in politics in the sense that like I'm paying attention, but I also live in a city that's very political, like from the mom and pop shops to the people that run it and the spaces that are within this community. And I've been like, for example, when the riots happened and there was marches and everything, it almost like I straight up like, I have more followers than the mayor of fucking Long Beach. So I put him on blast in the sense like, why is the 5 miles down the street in the rich neighborhood completely covered in police protecting every fucking Lucille's and fucking corporate companies, but yet you go up into the hood and every mom and pop shop is getting raided. It paints a very obvious picture of what to protect and what not to protect.
Yeah.
And it's shit like that as for years all I cared about was touring, to now a lot of the things that, you didn't notice are very obvious now. People's statements and where they stand are very obvious now, and it's kind of scary because, again, people aren't communicating or having a conversation to understand each other or meet in the middle. So now it's like, now I'm more fed up and annoyed with it than I actually fucking care to be like, yeah, Biden this or Trump this. Fuck both of them.
Yeah.
I feel you.
So
Yeah, people are tired and fed up, and so sometimes surprising us on where they stand when it comes to some of that stuff.
it's shocking because you go to Huntington Beach, like down the street, and people are like, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm like,
Yeah.
Someone was wear a mask. It's not the end of the world. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen for you wearing a mask? If you maybe wear a mask, maybe I could go back to work. Fuck.
Totally. You're heading to Long Beach or to Huntington a lot?
No, hell no, dude.
Stay in Long Beach, right?
I don't even remember the last time I was there.
I miss Long Beach, man. I want to come back and hang with you.
Come back, please.
Once the borders open up.
Yeah, we got to do like a 10-day run of like just LA, like all the spots from like top to bottom.
We just got to do a Comeback Hits the Ball reunion where it's literally just hanging out.
Do it.
One show, hanging out. That's it.
Just one, Zabalba style.
Hey, let's do it like next week. We'll that won't be open to public. Fuck it. We'll live stream it. But obviously, what have you guys been like? You guys talked about writing a record. I'm assuming you guys are planning to release a record. Like, what's the future for Comeback Kid? What does it look like? Is there more shows, a record, or is it indie?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of songs right now that we are pretty much gearing to record at the beginning of the new year in like January, February, if the city lets us, or if I think we need right now, since we're both locked down, we kind of need these numbers to drop, and then we can travel next month maybe. And yeah, we were able to kind of like, after a few times meeting up and just working on stuff on our own, we were able to come up with a good handful of songs, more than we need, I think. So we'll see how many of them are good. And then, we're going to record. We got it all set up, studio time, and who's going to mix it and stuff. So I think that we're in a pretty good spot as long as we can like keep our schedule right now. And then who knows? So there should be music by spring, I would guess. Awesome. Would be the earliest. Yeah.
So before I let you guys go, I have to ask, because I was very fortunate enough to meet Comeback Kid through one of my roommates and one of our mutual close friends, Bailey. Can you tell me your favorite Bailey story? Because I've heard plenty from the both of you. What's your favorite story that you've ever encountered with Bailey? There's some I can't say and I won't say.
This is one you should have given us a heads up for, because I know I'm going to walk away from this being like, there's a
Andrew, what's your favorite Bailey story?
Oh my God. I'm trying to think. Again, just like Jeremy, if I had some time to think about it, because right now,
there's a million. There's a million.
I know there's so many, but the ones I'm thinking in my head, I was like, oh, dude, he'll be so bummed if I tell people.
Yeah, I was just laughing the other day because I was watching the Hellfest DVD somehow. Like Stu put it on when we were jamming, and I was talking about how Mel, our guitar player, Figure 4, had this stick that she would like hit like trees with. Sometimes when we'd like stop the van or whatever, and I was telling the guys like, oh yeah, it's like Bailey would like, one time he like hit the stick and Mel got so mad. This is like 2004 or something. And then we were watching the interview from Hellfest of Figure 4, that DVD, and she had that stick in her hand actually right after I told that story. So that was pretty funny. But we gotta think of something. Bailey's a really awesome, successful, nice guy, but he's pulled some shit back in the day, funny shit, But
Oh, he used to have a big. This is probably like 18, 20 years. No, yeah, early 2000s. I remember they used to have this. I think it was like a mason jar or maybe like a big mayonnaise jar or something like that, and he had a big piece of shit in there, and he'd always piss in it and keep it in the freezer. He'd pull it out of his freezer, pee in it, and it was just like this massive
Why?
jar of frozen piss and shit.
That's not podcast appropriate. Hey, Joel, come say hi to Nate.
I've heard it worse.
Nate, there's my bro.
Joel!
He can't hear you, but
Oh, baby, I miss you.
says he misses you.
Miss you too, bud.
Miss
Dude,
you
I
too,
miss
bud.
I gotta come back to Chihuahua. Dude, so Bailey played in Sababa for like a year or two, and it was almost like he hasn't toured in a while, so it was almost like letting the kid loose for like the first time. So we one of my stories is we went on tour. Where the fuck we were? We're in the Philippines, and so the Philippines is a place that people don't know is that if you get caught with drugs or doing bad shit, you're going to jail. There's no way around it. And apparently, if you smoke weed, you they kill you supposedly. I didn't want
He
to.
got the gun on the sign. It's like jail or death.
I was like, we got there. I was like, I don't want to find out. So the first thing I told these fuckers, we got to the Philippines. I was like, don't do drugs. Don't fuck. I know, like, we live in California. Everybody smokes weed. It's chill. So we go to the Philippines, and of course, it always finds us. Some dude like, it's like, oh, you guys want to smoke some weed? And everybody, yeah, sure, fuck it. And I was just like, God damn it, dude. So everybody smokes his weed, which was apparently laced with something. We still don't know what the mystery drug is.
Yeah.
This is like midnight, and we have a flight at like 6 a.m. So we do. So everybody smokes this weed, and we get to the airport, and I looked at all the guys, and I'm like, hey, like, bring out your passports. You gotta talk, blah blah blah. And I looked at Bailey, and I was like, Bailey, like Bailey's like, I hate to say it like this, but he's like our token white dude that like kind of helps us out with everything. He's also our booking agent at the time, and he's also like managing us. And I was like, yo, Bailey, go talk to them because we're fucked up. And Bailey looks at me, he's like, I was like, what do you mean no?
No.
I was like, I can't talk. I was like, what? He's like, I can't talk. And I look at everybody else, and everybody is like just on planet mental. I don't know what happened. But that was the first time I've ever seen Bailey not be the professional dude I know. Because I was just like, Bailey,
He doesn't really.
you're the guy. You booked this tour. I don't know where I'm going.
Well, yeah, he booked Gravemaker's first tour, I think, in South America or some shit. So,
Dude, he's taking us.
remember. Sorry,
We lost you.
Am I back?
You're
Yeah.
back.
Remember Bailey's first like kind of quasi wedding in Vegas, and we ended up taking so many limos around that night. We just had a lot of people we could all chip in on. Like we paid like $5 each and get a limo to one place. And
This was like 8 years ago. When was this?
yeah, it was like Tanner put on Nickelback when he came down the aisle. We were drinking Four Locos.
So all I really remember from this wedding was that he got married on a Friday or Saturday, and he calls me, or like Monday he comes home. He's like, I'm getting married. And I was like, what? He's like, I'm getting married. We're going to Vegas. I was like, okay. And the only thing I remember right before he was going to walk the aisle, or like he was like wearing a Sabalba shirt, and his wife was like, no, you're not. He's like, but I'm supposed to, I got to support my friend. God, what a wedding.
Probably one of the best people ever. I miss him, and we're lucky that we can still kind of like work with him doing the merch stuff with him in Long Beach there. So
I still get to see him, so I'm stoked. Well, before I let you guys go, any shout outs or any fuck yous? You can also say fuck you to someone if you want.
shout out Bailey.
Yeah, shout out Bailey. Well, I miss you. Been too long.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you guys for joining us. I miss Comeback Kid.
We miss you, man, a lot.
Just playing shows with you guys, and hopefully the world comes correct, and I can see you guys soon.
Definitely.
Or if it doesn't
Let's
come
hope.
correct,
Let's hope.
I could miss you, brother.
Oh shit.
if it doesn't come correct, you might have to adopt a Mexican in Canada.
Hey, anybody's welcome up here.
I'm moving in.
Don't tell everyone that, Jeremy. We got you with open arms, though.
All right, brother. Miss you guys. Peace.
Miss you too, man. See ya.